What you're about to hear today needs to go viral. This is Brandie Page, and her son was almost killed by two hospitals within South Carolina and the U.S. military on Fort Jackson. So, again, what you're about to hear needs to go viral. These are serious circumstances. You must listen to it. You must share it, but please help us get this out.
My son says, and they refused to bring me any of my gear. I wasn't allowed to have my sleeping bag. I wasn't allowed to have any of my stuff. So he was just out there in the open up against a tree. Those two sergeants in the van tell my son, I hope you do have an infection. I hope your leg falls off and I hope you die. He explains that my son is in the ICU and his kidneys are starting to show signs of failing. He asked to have an MRI and the hospital doctor told him no. He asked to have blood work done and the hospital doctor told him no. And he asked to call his parents and the hospital doctor told him no.
Welcome out to God and Country. I'm Uriah Kennedy, and this is Ingrid Bettridge. We have a solemn guest with us this week. This is Brandie Page, who has had a son in the military that things did not go so well. In fact, they almost killed him, and so we're going to be disclosing everything that happened, and this is going to be pretty revealing, and you as the audience need to help us push this thing out nationally so it gets a lot of media attention. The more media attention this is going to get, the more it's going to help her and her son, who almost died in military boot camp. So again, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Make sure you help us get out there. Again, we have a lot of suppression coming from YouTube, and we need to get around that. So share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it on your social media. Help us get out there. We are going to have ICE and Border Patrol on beginning of January, so look out for specific dates for those. They are communicating with us on a regular basis, so it looks like we're pretty good. It looks like we're going to be switching our Border Patrol interview from somebody coming from Texas to somebody coming from San Diego, which might be even better. So we'll see how that goes. But let's start in with what happened to Brandie Page's son during boot camp. So let's start from the beginning of him joining the military. And I have a lot of experience with this. I mean, I got 4 sons in the military. I've seen them join. I've seen the swearing in. I've seen the boot camp. I've seen the AIT trainings. I've seen years and years of them being in the military. So quite a lot of experience. We're going to get along quite well during this podcast. So go ahead, and how did your son start with his name and how he got in?
So my son, Kayden, he joined the military. He was at the high school one day and they were talking about taking the ASVAB test, and he decided to take it to show his dad that he could score higher than his dad, which he didn't. My husband will be happy that I made sure I said that.
Dad still has bragging rights.
Yeah, they were both still in the top 2%, so they both did really good. But so the recruiter from Syracuse High tried to call my son. Of course, teenage boy doesn't answer his phone for people he doesn't know anyways. Then called me and just asked if, we'd come in and sit down and talk to him. And he was 17. And so we went in and they offered him any job he wanted. At first, he was going with a linguist job. And then he found out how long he would be away from home.
That's funny because that's what I was going in as a linguist. I was going in as a linguist, and they're going to switch me over to being an interrogator, which I thought interrogation, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm legally blind in one eye, so they didn't let me in. So
yeah. He was excited about the idea of being a linguist and learning, I think it was Japanese or something. And then they told him how long he'd be away from home. And he ended up going into civil engineering instead. And so he finished out his senior year of football. That was his life, and graduated high school and went straight to basic training. And this was really, really hard for me and his dad. We do have like grandpas that were in the military, but that's about as close as we've been to it. My husband has some siblings that have been in. And so, but we'd never had any of our kids away from home. So I was dreading boot camp. And every Sunday waiting for that phone call from your kid is no joke, especially if they get that taken away and you don't hear from them on a Sunday. But we were getting towards the end, and it's kind of where you start to settle and you're like, okay, we're flying out to his graduation in like a week and a half, you know?
How long was boot camp for him?
10 weeks.
Yeah, it's 10 weeks normally. And he was right up to the end. That's where they're doing the wall and all that. And that becomes a fun part. So he didn't even get to do that. So we'll get into that. But
yeah,
it's I just want to make a quick comment that those weekend phone calls are fun because they only have like a certain amount of time to call too.
Yep. And
so it's very, very limited. And I'm coming from a divorce family, so he has to limit it to like 10 or 15 minutes to my ex, and then to me, and then he wants to call his sister, spend most of his time with his sisters up at college, and so it's tough.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to have those canceled because anybody in the platoon can screw up, and it ruins it for
the whole thing. Yeah,
for everybody.
Yeah,
nobody's getting phone calls. Hey, this is Uriah Kennedy with the God and Country podcast, and they're one of the main reasons why I live in the Rocky Mountains in Utah is because there is nothing I enjoy more like getting out in the great outdoors. I absolutely love getting out there and camping, hiking, fishing, everything with my family. We do that every single year. Throughout the winter months, we're up there snowmobiling. The summer months, we're out there RVing or ATVing. We absolutely love it. It's the best time of the year we have together as a family. There's nothing like getting out there with the proper equipment. And we all know and trust Coleman since we were kids. Our parents, our grandparents have used Coleman for generations. They have the best tents, sleeping bags, coolers, cooking materials, and anything else you can possibly think of that you might need while you're out there enjoying the great outdoors. Please support our channel by going to the link in our description or scanning the QR code that's popping up on your screen and going to Coleman to buy all these needs. Whatever it is you can possibly think of, again, from stoves, tents, sleeping bags, coolers, any type of camping utensils, cooking utensils, fuel, whatever it is you can possibly need, click on the link in our description or the QR code that's popping up on your screen. Support the channel by buying any of this outdoor equipment at Coleman. We love the wide variety of products that Coleman has made over the years and how trustworthy those products have been. Coleman has a world-renowned name, something we've grown up trusting, and you know if you can think of it, they probably have it. So again, click on the link in our description or scan the QR code popping up your screen. Support this channel and keep watching.
Yeah. So we knew he was going to the Forge Week. It was what I was the most worried about, because for anyone that doesn't know what the Forge Week is, you know, you march out. I don't know. It's like miles, I think. You go out, they dig their foxholes, and they spend the week out there in the elements. So we get the phone call from him on the Saturday. He's leaving for the Forge on the Sunday, and you know, we just tell him we're excited to fly out for his graduation the week after. And Monday night, I wake up like in the middle of the night and I'm a mess. And I'm like, I think something's wrong with Kayden. And my husband is like, he is at the safest, like Brandie, even if something is wrong, he's at the safest place he could be at. They'll make sure he's taken care of. And I had told multiple people that next day on Tuesday, like, I had a bad feeling there's something wrong with my son yesterday. So
that's
so
what you
weird.
would expect too. Somebody like me that I did have a sister who served in the National Guard, and they do I didn't know it was called Forge Week, but they do it out in the Everglades. I would expect that you would have the finest of everything for the military. That's our naive little.
They have nothing in Forge Week. So
Naive.
all four of my kids have described it to me. They have nothing in Forge Week. And they'll go out there and you have to dig a foxhole and then you have to bury it. And then you hike a couple more miles and you dig another one. And then you have to bury it. And then you hike more miles and you dig it. And you're full rucksack, full everything. And it's tough. My kids did theirs in Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. And my other kid did it down in Fort Sill in Oklahoma. All just very tough because my younger two did it middle of the summer, hotter than Hades out there. And they'd get in trouble if they would sip out of their camel packs. They said, no, we want you suffering out there because it's you're supposed to be going out there and suffering. And so they would actually test them and see if their camel packs were still full.
Yeah.
For a while. And then at the end of the day, you could finally drink, but during the march, you couldn't because they really want to take you through it. So I'm coming from a place of understanding. And then in Fort Sill, he did it during the middle of winter, and it was freezing.
What time of year was this?
It was the hot of summer. It was 105 to 110 degrees.
Yeah, I understand. It's the toughest part of it. It's like, I mean, like our Navy SEALs going through Death Week. They go through it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can't even imagine that. But yeah, so Tuesday I started to, I haven't heard anything. My husband said that they would call us. They're going to call us if he gets hurt. And so Wednesday, don't hear anything. And then Thursday is when I'm driving in my truck and I get a call. And it is a hospital doctor. And unfortunately, it was over my car. And so when he explains that my son is in the ICU and his kidneys are starting to show signs of failing, and, we want to make sure you understand that this is life or death. My twins, who are 11, and at the time, I guess they were 10, and love, like my kids love each other so much. They really are very tight siblings, and they just started screaming bloody murder like I've never heard before. Calming them down was really, really hard. And so the doctor, I said, I really want to see him. Can I see him? And so the doctor was sweet and put me in on a video message with his phone and showed me my son's leg, which looked almost maroon. He had, it was red from the ankle to the top of the thigh. And
I'm going to show that just so the audience can see this. So this is what we're talking about here.
They had drawn the lines on it. So this is Thursday night. And so we kind of assume, okay, we're going to hear from the military by
any minute.
We're going to hear, they're going to call us like any minute. And they didn't. And so Friday, I have no way of reaching my son. Like, he's being told he cannot use the phone in the thing to call out. I don't know how to get a hold of him. I don't know what hospital he's at.
The doctor didn't even tell you where they were at?
No. And so I just start calling all of the hospitals around. Like, I just Google the hospitals around Fort Jackson and I start calling. And I finally I think it was probably the third hospital I had called. And they said, the person that answered said, I need to transfer you to the ICU nurse. And I was like, what? And because the doctor had told me that it was critical, but he didn't come out and say he's in the ICU.
Oh.
So that was the first I knew he was in the ICU.
Did you know at that point how long it had been since the injury, or if this is day one, if this is...
No, I didn't know that he had been in the hospital on the Monday before. At that
so
point.
He's been in now how many days?
He had been rushed to the hospital on the Monday, and the hospital, I'll go into what they did, but they basically sent him back.
So
this is the call on Thursday. Yeah. So he'd been in the hospital on Monday. The hospital didn't do what they should have done on Monday, and he got taken back out into the Forge Week on Tuesday and Wednesday, out in the heat, going septic. He developed rhabdomyolysis, acute kidney injury is what they called it. the infection in his knee got so bad it developed gout, and then he had a infection in his knee, and come to find out 11 centimeter abscess in his thigh of infection. And so on Friday, when I get a hold of the ICU nurse, they tell me that it could go either way. That's basically what she says. This could go either way. And I have my best friend getting me to the airport right then, and getting me on the flight to go to South Carolina. The only way I could get there fastest was I flew into North Carolina, rented a car, and drove from North Carolina to South Carolina. So I got to him in the middle of the night around 1:00 in the morning. And so I didn't want to wake him up. He woke up just enough to know that I was there. So I let him sleep. So on Saturday morning, when he got up and I wanted to see his leg and I pulled the covers back, that's when I saw that they had not cleaned. The picture you saw, his leg looked just like that. They hadn't cleaned the wound. It was drawn on all over. He was filthy because he'd been in a hole or sleeping outside for multiple days. He hadn't been wiped down, nothing. So I called the doctor in and I questioned them on recording as to why they did not even clean my son's wound. Like, first, everything I understand, first thing of nursing or medical is he would have had the knee debrided. He would have been cleaned up so that if there's anything with the infection anywhere around it, it was no longer there. And he was just left in that hospital bed like that. And so, the doctor makes their excuses, says he came in at a weird time. It's their weekend. It's their weekend staff. And so I get them to explain that to me. And then after I do that, I contact someone I know in the Army and I ask why I haven't heard from anyone in the Army this week. That was what I wanted to know right away, is should they have called me and told me that my son was in critical condition in the ICU? And I don't know who they contacted, but by Saturday night, I was getting messages from, I think he's a colonel, and the commander, both. So they were both messaging me. The commander said, I will be there tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and Colonel Hargrove will be there, or Hargrove, I think, will be there tomorrow at 10 a.m. And so I did think it was a little weird that they weren't coming together. And if I could encourage anyone ever to learn something from this, I would have demanded that they came together.
Why is that?
Because the commander showed up with her civilian, wife. I cannot prove it's the wife or a girlfriend. What I was told is it's her wife. I was told that she brought her because she was a ICU nurse at a different hospital. And when I look back on it, it was a commander choosing to get there 2 hours before the people over her so she could explain to me what happened and put her case there. And then I wouldn't feel the need to talk to the next people because I would have had an explanation as to what happened.
And what was her case? So
she told me that, and she told me all of this. My son was not in condition he wasn't even he didn't know what happened. He said, Mom, I don't know how I got an infection. He was not telling me anything that had taken place that week. So she comes in with her wife or girlfriend, and she explains to me, Mrs. Page, I want you to understand why we handled things the way that we did. She said, Kayden started saying he couldn't walk. We called an ambulance on Monday. The ambulance took him to MUSC hospital. MUSC hospital said that he was faking and that he was fine. And she said, so when we brought him back, we were told he was faking. And I think they're called, what are they called? My sergeants treated him as if he was faking. And she said, you have to understand, we have kids that fake it every day that don't want to do things at drill. And I understand that. But my question was like, how many of them do you have that either haven't faked it all along the way and then just do it right there at the end? I mean, he knew he was going to see his parents next week. He's telling you he's had no problems physically, right? He's telling you that he can't walk. He can't put pressure on his leg. Well, we were told that he was faking it from the hospital. So she tells me that the first day they bring him back to the hospital, they have him sleep next to a tree. And my son says, and they refused to bring me any of my gear. I wasn't allowed to have my sleeping bag. I wasn't allowed to have any of my stuff. So he was just out there in the open up against a tree. She says, yes, that's how it was handled. She tells me that she pulled into the parking lot that morning at around 4 a.m. when it's dark, and she opened her driver's side door, and my son was laying right there in the fetal position that she had almost ran him over, which he didn't even know that she had almost ran him over. She told me that she immediately starts screaming at him and the sergeant for being responsible for him being in like basically the parking lot like that with a full infection, asleep in the fetal position with no sac and no nothing. So she says, you know, just understand that I've went through that. I've disciplined for that.
Great. It's all taken care of.
Mm-hmm. And then she tells me that they go on this day event, and Kayden's on crutches. So like Kayden had gone to the hospital on Monday. They bring him back to the forge that night. He's forced to sleep. They told him he wasn't allowed to sleep or they would recycle him, but he fell asleep up against a tree, ends up rolling out kind of in the parking lot, basically. He cannot put pressure on his leg. So they take him to the events that day in a van with his commander. This is what she told me. His commander, 2 sergeants, and a battle buddy. Those 2 sergeants in the van tell my son, I hope you do have an infection. I hope your leg falls off, and I hope you die. He is septic. He is so confused by why he is being
He's probably got a
tortured
fever
at this point. Yes, he had a fever, and he had stopped sweating. He wasn't sweating, which is signs that he is severely dehydrated. And on Monday, when the ambulance took him, they already put that he was dehydrated. They have that in the ambulance record. They gave him ketamine in the ambulance. And so my first question was, if you think a soldier's faking it, what are you doing giving him ketamine? Why would you be giving him ketamine? If your response is, he's faking it, then you just gave my son a drug he didn't even need. But they had documented all of that stuff. The sergeants and his commander still believe he's faking it. They give him a hard time. And as my son will say, like, they were just messing with me. Yes, I know I'm the mom, and I'm like, no, this is not okay. My son's like, this is what they do. But the commander is the one explaining this to me. And so she gives me an excuse of why it took her so long to get him to the hospital, because that was my biggest question is, you come in the next day and you look at his leg that's all red, and you told me in the morning his leg was all red. You told me that you took pictures of it so that you guys would have it on record first thing in the morning. But you took until 5 o'clock that night-ish to get him to medbay. And then he ends up in the ICU. He ends up ambulanced twice. He ends up ambulanced to one hospital that hospital says, we're not a high enough trauma hospital, and we can't treat him. And so they ambulance him again to where he ends up at Prisma Baptist. So my question was, why did it take you all day? Why did you take all day to get a kid that you felt you should take pictures of his leg in the morning to medbay to get him treatment? She explains like that she got bit, which ends up being this running thing the whole time is she got busy. That's why no one was at the hospital with him for multiple days. That's why I wasn't called. You know, she's real busy. And so at that point in the hospital room, my entire body takes over, and I'm like, I need to record my son's hospital room for the rest of this thing. And so 10 o'clock, the command or the person over the commander comes in. I don't know who he has with him. They're both on recording. So there's 4 people in Kayden's room.
Well, before you get into that, I want to break some of this down for the audience. So I understand exactly where they're coming from a lifelong father for kids that are in there. And when you have these drill sergeants are mean for a reason, and they can get brutal. And the more you don't do what they say, the more brutal they're going to become. So the problem is there's a certain tendency, and our police forces have the same problem, and I know the drill sergeants have the same problem, is they just see crap all day long. When you have all these people joining the military, you have no idea where they're coming from, what their background is, how belligerent they are. But their job as drill sergeants is to break you down until you do nothing but obey. And if you don't obey, they're going to harp on you until you finally quit and walk out and just say, I'm done, I'm quitting the Army, or you start obeying. And so it gets more and more brutal. So I understand where the drill sergeants are. Most of them don't even like doing it themselves. They're forced into that position. I mean, they're called to that position because most drill sergeants don't like yelling and screaming.
My son told me that of the 4 drill sergeants who were involved in this, because the hardest thing I had, what really was hard for me about defending the drill sergeants is when when you're told that your son is basically in and out of consciousness in this van. That's what she told me. He was like going in and out of consciousness. So for me, I'm like, how any of you guys could have watched that and not thought to immediately get him to the hospital is insane.
That's insane.
But Kayden had told me that there were 4 drill sergeants, and 2 of them chose to be there. 2 of them asked for that job.
And that's
scary. The other 2 did not want it. They were assigned it. And he said the most brutal ones were the ones who were assigned it for him. Because they didn't want to be there.
They didn't want to be there. I see that all the time. My own kids have told me that, the ones that don't want to be there, they're brutal because they don't want to be there. They're assigned it because most people don't want to be drill sergeants. So that first night where he's sleeping next to the tree and stuff like that, I understand that, and I'll give them kind of a pass there. But the next day when they're in that bus or in that van, there's no pass. You can tell as a human being when someone else is suffering, when someone else is having a problem. But I understand the night before how brutal they were. And I want to bring something up so the audience can see this. And this is where the problem lies. So this is his discharge paperwork, right?
From the Monday night.
From the Monday night. And so this is where he gets his discharge paperwork, and then they take him right back to the forge week, right back thing. And so it goes through and it describes everything they have that's going wrong, but military people have no idea. This is Greek to them. So all they're going to do is they're going to go down to the bottom and they're going to read discharge instructions. I guarantee that's all they read. So the problem lies in the hospital where they say, wear ACE wrap as needed for comfort. As needed to a drill officer means they don't need it. That's the first thing they would have said. Report to sick call immediately upon return to Fort Jackson for reevaluation. Like the hospital doesn't even care and didn't even do much there at all, which obviously they did. And sick call in military terms is like going to the school nurse in elementary school. It's nothing. And the drill sergeants treat it as nothing. So when you have people from all over the country coming here just being belligerent, don't want to do this, don't want to do that, I can't tell you how many people get to Forge Week and start faking a lot of stuff so they don't have to do Forge Week, because it's the toughest week of the whole thing. And if they can get a pass for it and still graduate, they're going to try everything they can. And these drill sergeants have seen every excuse underneath the sun of why they can't do this or why they can't do that. I mean, they live and die by excuses over there.
Absolutely. And to defend the soldiers, they're the ones that are there with the best, like the ones. So my son was the most excited for Forge Week. He's grown up. He's been a football player his whole life. He's wrestled his whole life. A lot of people believe if you can do wrestling, you can do anything. And he's played sports his whole life. So he was so excited for the challenge of the Forge Week. And what really becomes hard with these situations is I get that they see the worst of the worst, but then it ends up being the ones that have something serious get left behind because they assume everyone everyone's mentality is, they definitely assumed he didn't want to do it.
The problem I see here, from experience, the problem I see here is by the time you get to Forge Week, the drill sergeants kind of know who's who, who's been the problem children, who's been
First thing I asked the commander.
Right, so they should have known.
So they should have recognized it immediately, because my kids have gone through 4 weeks. My son complained because he had a knee problem too, and they came up to him and says, look, you can go to sick bay, but if they keep you there, we'll have to repeat you, which is what they told your kid. And so my son just said, I'll just tough it out. And he toughed it out, and he got severe fever, and he ended up staying in bed for a week after Forge Week.
So he made it to the end.
So he made it into Forge Week, and then he was out. And they had him on severe antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. So a similar thing happened to him. But he toughed it through just so he wouldn't have to repeat.
Yeah.
But they were kind enough to give him the option. Says, we understand you're hurting. We'll take it easy on you, but
here's the consequence if you do.
You'll have to repeat it. But they saw the difference. They knew, because he was he graduated as number 2 in his class. He only lost by number 1 by 1 point, being the first in class. So, and then my adopted son was like number 3 or number 4 in the class, had issues. So they already know who the problem children is. So looking at your son, I'm saying, if he had excelled for those first few weeks, knowing that he wasn't a problem child, why did they treat him like a problem child?
Yeah.
Because they would have known better.
Which is the first thing I'd asked the commander. Like, I wanted to know from her, had you guys seen anything with him? Because he's done and no. And it was like, okay, well then why did you just assume he was faking it? And then once you take the picture of his leg, you know he's not faking it.
Well, even before then, the soldiers the night before that made him sleep by the tree and were keeping him awake, they should have known what kind of soldier it is, and they probably did. So treating him like that has kind of an excuse, because they get all of the excuses out of the book. And everybody trying to quit, and there are soldiers there, they'll kind of flip at the very last second, and just there's certain things they just don't want to do, and they've been good all the way up to that point, and all of a sudden they flip. So I think they kind of had that mindset where, oh yeah, he's good, but all of a sudden he's confronted the first thing he doesn't want to do, so we're going to treat him like this. We're going to make sure the rest of the company knows that everybody's being treated the same, and there's no excuses for anybody. And they get type of mentality where we're going to show an example just in case somebody else wants to do the same thing you're doing, right? And so the example goes out, and you just happen to be the one that the example got taken out on. So there's a lot that goes through the minds of the drill sergeants. So I get the night before, I get all that, the torture behind the tree. I've seen worse. I've seen drill sergeants do worse. I've been told worse by my own kids of other kids that are just absolutely rebellious. So don't be shocked by what she's saying by that, because I've seen worse, and I've seen kids get through worse. The problem is, the second they get in that van,
and he's going in and out,
everybody should have said, no, this kid isn't faking it. They had zero excuse at that point. So now we're going back to the hospital. So she's telling you what happened. She's at tremendous fault herself, because she was in the van, right? She was in the van. She's in charge.
She explains to my son in the room, I want you to understand why I didn't do anything or discipline them in there, because I can't be seen. I can't look weak to them. I can't discipline them in front of you. And it's like, okay, you're giving us a million excuses now for why this happened. And that came across as very suspicious for me, because I'm sure she thought Kayden had already told me everything, but he hadn't, because he was septic and he was really sick. And so we weren't talking about what got us there. We were trying to get him better. But I do want people to really understand that first Monday, where there is a huge breakdown for all of our servicemen and women. From what I understand, if you get hurt at Fort Jackson, you're taken to MUSC hospital first. It's the first step from what I've been told, and some of the other soldiers' families who have been through stuff like this. And MUSC is where the first breakdown happens, because Kayden asks for additional treatment. When he got in there and he couldn't put any weight on his leg, he told them, I don't think this is bone related, when they were doing an x-ray. Like, he doesn't have a medical background, but His dad's been sick for years. He's been through a lot of things with his dad in the hospital. He said, I don't think it's bone related. I don't think an x-ray is going to show you what's going on. And he asked them for an MRI. And so when I pull the MUSC records, I see so many things wrong with it because they do an x-ray. They put in the record that he has swelling and redness and his knee is warm. They also put that he's severely dehydrated. They leave out that he throws up all over their room. And we were pretty sure he was throwing up because in the ambulance on the way there, he was given ketamine, which he had never had. And it made him very, very, very loopy. The EMTs were kind of making fun of Kayden because I guess he got pretty like crazy and loud and out of it on the ketamine. And when he got to the hospital, he just started throwing up like crazy. They don't put that in the record at all, but they did put that he was dehydrated. They did put that they did an x-ray. What I really want people to know is he asked to have an MRI and the hospital doctor told him no. He asked to have blood work done and the hospital doctor told him no. And he asked to call his parents and the hospital doctor told him no. So the only thing he could have done to save himself and take care of himself, which would have never led to him getting rhabdo and going septic and stuff, most likely, because they would have started him on a hard antibiotic that day, is what he did. He asked for those things. They told him no. They told him, the hospital doctor at MUSC told him that he didn't have time for it and that he needed to go back to the doctors on base, that he was sending him back to the doctor on base. So when I got pulled his medical report, and you see that all they did is an x-ray from, that's it. Like, even for me, I'm like, the first step would be blood work, right? Like, that's going to show he has an infection.
Have the name of that doctor? Let's call him out.
It's got to be I think it's in the report.
I mean, that doctor should be fired.
I've reached out to MUSC administration. I mean, nobody wants to talk
needs to be sued because that's
no one wants to talk to me.
That doctor started this problem.
And it's not even a one-off thing with just my son, because there's another family that I met with it. She was in the National Guard too, and she was full on carried from MUSC to the van to go back to base when she was saying something was wrong. And she had a stroke when she got back to Fort Jackson. And that was a few months before what happened to my son. So there's already a record of these breakdowns. She also asked to call her parents. She also asked for additional treatment. And she went back on base and had a stroke. And so it's like there is a breakdown between Fort Jackson and MUSC hospital for sure.
You know, even in prison, you get a phone call.
I know.
Do you recognize his name, Joseph Kukuka? Kukuka.
The doctor?
Is that him?
I'm not sure. It's whoever was his. Yeah, it's whoever is in that medical record from the ER.
That's what it says right there. Oh, I don't know if this is the ER, but it's your discharge paperwork.
I don't think that and you know this better than me because you had multiple kids go there, but I don't think our men and women that are signing on to serve for us should ever be put in a position where they say, I'm uncomfortable and I'm asking for further medical treatment. If it's reasonable, right? Like doing blood work is completely reasonable to ask an ER to do. Yeah. To be told, like, I get it. You're not going to let them call
what shocked
home.
Me is MUSC is a civilian hospital. It's not military.
So why are they taking
Why are you
there?
treating him like that? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't care if I'd rather have them go to MUSC because it's a very, very renowned hospital. It's a very big hospital. I've worked with them in my medical career. I know MUSC very, very detailed. It's a great hospital. So why did that specific physician treat military people different than he treated civilians? Mm-hmm. That's where I see the problem.
Very good question.
Why are you treating base people differently? Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can think of is the base has got a track record of sending over people that are faking it. And he just makes an assumption. Mm-hmm. And so now you're taking somebody else's life in your hands because you're assuming something. You're making an assumption. Well,
and that girl, the woman, I think they're from Alabama. I still communicate with her family. She said, I can't walk. I can't. And they said, oh my gosh, you know, you're faking it. And she has a lawsuit with MUSC right now. Like, this is going to be public record that they put in her documents that she was faking a few months before my son.
Wow.
So it's in her medical record that they says she's faking. She says, I can't walk there. I cannot walk out there like this. And they don't believe her. And so they carry her to the van that takes her back to the base. And she has a stroke that night on base. Like, what? She told you she couldn't walk. You put that she was faking, carried her to the van, and she had a stroke. And it wasn't a little, it was a massive stroke. She's medically discharged now. But like, why would we ever have our military people in a position where they have to fight for their lives at a hospital in the United States? Like, I fully understood what my son was signing on for if he was deployed. I do. I hate it. I hate it. I'm his mom. I don't want anything to happen to him. But like, I would love to believe that I have like all the grace in the world for knowing that he signed up to serve his country and things happen. Those things should not happen when we're training our men and women, ever.
Well, we should have the comfort knowing that the military superiors have their back, right?
Yeah.
That they have their back, no matter thick and thin, out in the field, here at home. They have their back.
Yeah.
And in all instances here, nobody had his back. The first error was that doctor. The doctor screwed up big time.
Yeah.
Particularly the doctor that issued these particular discharge notes.
Yep.
Knew what he was doing when he said that, because he's got lots of experience in the military. He knows what they're going to do with that exact verbiage that he discharged them with. He knows that they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So that doctor has probably 90% of the blame here.
My son said,
That's the first mistake. Second mistake is that van. What's her name? Do you know her name?
yeah, Commander Leslie Jackson.
So Leslie Jackson in Fort Jackson should be court-martialed. You are in charge. You are in command. You should know better than this. You should be looking across there and recognizing what the problem is. You're not worried about the opinions of anybody else. I don't know any commander that cares too much about everybody else's opinion, because why? I'm in charge. I'm going to make the ultimate decision.
Yeah.
And if I call it, I'm going to call it. And she knows for a fact that nobody else in that van is going to say anything because she is there.
Yeah.
They're not going to say anything. They may notice something. They may say something, but they're not going to call it out because their boss is in the van.
It'd be interesting to see what her experience was to get her into that position. Where did she come from?
Is she a DEI hire? I'm going to call that out. Are you a DEI hire? That's why we're having problems here?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things she said to me and Kayden in the hospital room was that she didn't care if she got into trouble, that she was getting her master's in engineering and she was off to Texas in the next month. That's what she told us in the hospital room, that she was being sent to Texas in the next month. They can do whatever they're going to do to me. And that kind of like narcissism of, you just put this kid in this position.
And you're worried about what's going to happen.
You were saying, you, like, you just put him in this position. And 2 hours later, two more military men come in, and the one, I cannot remember his name. He's very soft spoken on the
He was actually trying to help.
He is. He was
a great guy.
He was amazing. And he said on that recording, he said, I have never seen anything like this. I don't know how this happened. I am so sorry. So it's like, he's looking right at my son's leg. And he's saying to me, I've never seen anything like this. So you know it's bad. And your response is, I'm off to Texas in a month. Like, no.
Yeah. So you got a doctor that needs to be brought up. You got this commander that needs to be brought up. Those are the two people so far at fault for this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And when I tried to, I wanted a meeting. So basically what happens is they come into his room with the rest of the military officials, Colonel Harwood or Hargrove.
And is this Friday or is this Saturday?
This is Sunday.
Sunday now.
Mm-hmm. So Sunday morning is, his commander gets there first at 8, and then the other two men get there at 10. You can hear him questioning my medical expertise of why I'm defending my son. And he talks about putting Kayden on scent leave, and he talks about nursing Kayden back to health. But on those recordings, I specifically say that I'm very uncomfortable with multiple things that are going on in that hospital and Kayden's treatment. And I say exactly what it is. I say that they didn't clean him. I say that they keep scheduling and canceling surgery. And I knew Kayden needed surgery. And they kept scheduling it and canceling it. I said to them, I am not comfortable with him in this hospital. And I told them that the hospital itself had told me I wasn't allowed to be there because of him being military. And I told the hospital, I said, well, you can carry me out of here kicking and screaming, and I will be back as fast as I can with whatever news organization I can find to have you explain why you took the mother of a soldier who was possibly could have died at boot camp out of his public hospital. So we can do that if that's what you want to do. And there was a really sweet nurse who actually defended me because she had a son my son's age. And so she's like, this is what I would be doing. But they didn't want me in his room because I was already saying where they lacked in their care for him. So, they tried to intimidate me out, said, the soldiers aren't supposed to have people here. Okay, well, I don't care. And they tried to get me to go to the Fisher house to stay at night. And I was like, no, I'm sleeping on a cot right next to his bed. I will not be leaving this room. So they learned that I would go. It wasn't going to be just they could tell me to leave. I was going to go out kicking and screaming. And so they calmed that down. But it was multiple instances that I was like, I'm really uncomfortable with this. And I tell the commander that. And I believe it's Colonel. I tell both of them.
Well, the base commander, I've listened to every minute of your recordings, every minute of it. And the base commander on there, he's incredibly nice, trying to walk things through it. He's on the phone, trying to call people, get some answers the whole time. Mm-hmm. He's the one that says, well, you can go over to the Fisher house, but then you tell him that, no, I'm going to stay here. And he's like, I completely agree with that. And he gets on the phone, and then there's it's a guy nurse, right? It's in the background. And he's like, I can't believe you're going through this. This shouldn't have happened.
It's not a nurse. That's a military. The one that says that says, I can't believe you're going through this. This happened. He is the person that came with the colonel.
But he was really nice. I thought he was like a nurse in the building or something. No, he's a military guy. He's military. Like, I've never seen this before. Mm-hmm. He said, I'd be doing the exact same thing you're doing right now.
Yeah, he tells you on that.
He tells you right on the recording.
If this was my son, me and my wife would have done this. We would have flown out.
Just my wife would have been in this room with you. And he's like, she's got some fire on her.
Yeah.
And he does a great description in there. And I completely agree with him. Mm-hmm. And so you got this commander in there in the room that in the recording that's trying to help. And then the doctor that comes in, I'm going to play when the doctor comes in the room because I think this is absolutely shocking. So you guys are going to listen to this whole thing. Is he the same doctor that did the discharge?
No, not because this is a different hospital.
Different hospital.
MUSC doctor did the discharge. This one is Prisma Baptist.
Prisma. Mm-hmm. And so he's got the same problem as the MUSC hospital. He could care less. He doesn't even want to be in the room. You can tell he doesn't want to be. You can see how nonchalant he is in here. He goes in there, hey, move your leg, squeeze your leg, do this for you. That's all crap. You're not a physical therapist. He's doing it in there just to
put on a show for the military.
Put on a show, a pretense that, look, I'm here doing something. I'm investigating. And the only reason he's in there is because he was told to be in that room.
Exactly.
And when he first comes in the room, everything he does, I think, is completely insulting. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is the stupidest way to investigate an infection, is having somebody move their leg around, see how far you can bend it.
Uh-huh.
I'm like that.
Especially when you're looking at it purple.
Redonkulous. Mm-hmm. And then you ask him a question, and you'll see here, and he completely ignores you. Mm-hmm. Doesn't even acknowledge it. So let's play this real quick.
Hey, how are you? Good. Chris Mazur. I'm one of the orthopedic surgeons, one of Dr. Guy's partners who's been taking care of you. How are you? Chris Mazur. How are you? Good seeing you. How are you? All right. How's the knee feeling?
Terrible.
Yeah? Okay.
How Johnny much better pain was.
Has not?
Did
Okay.
Have you read his MRI?
Did
Yep. Can you lift your leg up off the bed for me?
Completely ignores you.
There you go. Good. Let's take this. Good. That's awesome. Very good.
MRI.
Okay. Go ahead and bend your knee for me. The other. Adhesion or the right. Good. Straighten it out. Good. Very good. Awesome.
Ow.
Hey, fevers, chills, anything like that you're having?
Both.
Both? Yeah. And so you had a little wound here, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me what that was from.
It was a lot. It was like a month ago.
Oh.
I have no idea.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So that was open though, and the skin was open right there, or just like a brush?
I'm okay. So I had like big air legs on my uniform, so I couldn't see anything down here. But I have to.
Okay. Move your foot up and down for me. Move your toes. Yeah. Okay. Marler. And again, lift your leg up off the bed corner. So try to leave it really good. Okay. Thank you. And let's see you bend it as much as you can. That's really good. Cut. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Cool. Okay. All right. Come on. All right. So there's obviously what he has is a infection in the skin and bursa. Okay. So we call that a cellulitis and a bursitis. Okay. And I don't think there's a whole lot of question of the fact that you can get a bursitis without getting an infection. But this looks like it's one that was infected. Okay. And obviously on antibiotics for that. And this may have been brewing for a little bit. And so obviously you can see where, he had all this erythema and things like that.
Symptoms started Monday.
Yeah. So, again, probably, the body was going through this reaction for a while, and thankfully got him on antibiotics. And from an infectious disease standpoint, labs are getting better, and certainly not septic or anything like that, which is great. Are your mom?
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's been this question of a septic arthritis, and so. Looking at him exam-wise, you're not showing a whole lot of signs that this would be a septic arthritis. Okay. And the reason for that is when someone has a...
Anyway, so he's going in there. Well, let's move your leg up there, bend it as far as you can. Let's have you wiggle your toes. Like it's some nerve damage or joint damage or something like that. And all that's for show. I mean, I come from the medical world. I've been in the medical world for 11 years. I deal primarily in physical therapy and in pain. I've dealt for 5 or 6 years in infectious diseases and wounds and wound care and skin grafting. I've worked with many military medical hospitals in skin grafting because I've treated a lot of soldiers that come out with no legs, no arms, something like that, and they have to cover a stump or something like that. We've done skin grafting stuff for stumps.
Yeah.
So I've seen lots of wounds. And everything he did in that room was absolutely stupid.
Well, his tone neurolinguistically, he's trying to do a very casual, like, this is a silly, low-end,
Exactly.
nothing thing.
Well, he's saying
pacifying.
that, basically saying, I don't want to be in this room. I was told to come in here and talk to the mother.
Yeah. Well, because I'd been asking for them to come in for 2 days at that point. Like for Saturday, well, I guess one. For all of Saturday, I'd been asking for a doctor. For Sunday, I'd been asking for a doctor immediately. And Commander Jackson says that when she's in the room, that like we've requested someone to come in multiple times. Mom's been requesting. And
he's purposely trying to talk over your head too, using all these big words like he's doing something.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of doctors come in and just describe it in layman's terms, not in...
Well, and that's where I think the panic set in with a lot of these people is they were expecting to talk to me like that. And then I would just take that. But like I'd had experiences with these infections in the leg. So I knew what they were saying versus what I was seeing wasn't right. And then I was reading his medical reports too. So I was reading what was being said in real time with the sepsis and stuff. And then he's telling me it's not. So, but I'm pulling up my son's portal and reading it.
So let's go from this point and just describe how we get to the next point. Because we go from here to, they're just going to put him on IV antibiotics, which is a lot stronger antibiotic than oral antibiotics. And he's talking about, well, let's do some IV for the next couple of days. We don't want to move him because you're absolutely insistent. Let's get him to Utah. I don't want him in this hospital anymore. You're going to kill my son if he stays in this hospital. He's leaving. And so the commander agrees, the doctor agrees, well, let's put him on IV antibiotics for a couple of days. Let's see how he does on Monday. And if we think we can get him on orals, then let's talk then about transferring him to Utah. Mm-hmm. It gets worse from there. It gets worse from there. And so and they're insisting on not cutting the leg open and draining it or doing anything like that. But then it doesn't show in the recordings how they go from the IV antibiotics to where they're actually putting tubes in his leg to drain it. So how did they get to that point?
When Monday came, after the talk on Sunday, when Monday came, he was getting worse. And so they had someone come in and put the needle in to drain it. And what came out of it was infection, like we thought. And so we were told they were going to schedule surgery again on that day. And Hargrove called me and said, we are looking at moving him to a base the hospital base in Georgia. But they're telling us they're scheduling surgery. And so I'm like, he needs surgery, but I don't want him having surgery at this hospital. And they all knew that. And so then it was talk they were going to move him to the Georgia hospital. But then the surgeon came in and said, well, we scheduled surgery again. I was like, well, I just got told that they're going to move him. And they're like, no, they're not. And so I'm like angry because I'm begging since yesterday for him to get out of this hospital. So come Tuesday, they cancel his surgery again. I think it was Tuesday that they canceled it. They told us he was going to have surgery. Then they canceled his surgery. As soon as they canceled his surgery, I was on the phone with anyone and everyone in Utah, like anyone and everyone. Our legislator, I was on the phone with her, like, please find me someone, get me someone. I put in referrals to all of our congressmen, all of our senators. Like, I need you to get me someone right now to get my son out of this hospital. And as soon as I did that, things changed. They sent 3 liaisons into our room, and those liaisons on recording tell my son, like, we don't need to hear about what has happened before now getting to this point. We need to come up with a solution going forward. And I'm like, really? Like, all right. And so then they see I'm going to be a big problem, and they tell us that they are going to send Kayden back to Utah as a graduate instead. Because
well, let's go deeper into this thing, because I have my second cue pulled up, and it's one of these liaisons. And he tries to pull out every excuse in the book as to why they're not doing anything. So let's listen to the liaison real quick.
Okay.
And the audience will find out real quick what we're talking about.
If you feel like you were mistreated in some type of way or whatnot, then you can file an IG complaint, and they could put an investigating officer on that. But he would have to file the complaint.
Is that the same thing how do you file a complaint on the whole thing of them not taking an infection seriously? The doctor that came in today, said, I'm really lucky that he didn't die. You know, by the time he got here, he's septic. It's so serious.
You can file your IG complaint on if it's regarding to the company, or if it's in regards to the TMC, anything military related. You could file. You can file an IG complaint.
I'd rather just yawn.
No, it's fine.
I just need to take notes so I know what you think.
I get it. It's kind of. So I'm not justifying. And like I said, I'm not an investigating officer, and I'm not justifying their actions by any means, because I am not. But I do know what I do see within a training environment, and it's unfortunate. There's just so many that there are serious cases such as this. But if you go to the TMC, and they're lined up in and around the foreign, so many soldiers just on sinking quarters. It's really hard to, and especially not being. As for me, if I would say as a commander, it's kind of hard to justify the hospital telling me there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not a medical official, so I'm assuming either he's malingering or he's just not wanting to train. You just never know what's in the mind of a soldier, which obviously in this case there's obviously something wrong. But there are
He was 3 days away from being a soldier. So it's 3 days. He's never asked to go to sick bay. He's never done anything. I can totally understand what you're saying, but
No, and I you know, I don't want to cut you off, but I mean, it's a sad situation because I mean, I don't know the severity of what could have happened. You know, they cut his leg off, life or limb. You know, but you know, the best thing you can do is file an IG complaint in regards to how you were treated and how if you could just file a complaint, they can do their investigation, and then the investigating officer within the inspector general office would determine if, you know, if the complaint was just or unjust. If it was in regards to the hospital, I think it would have to be a separate complaint within the civilian hospital, if that makes any sense. So those are two routes that I do want to give you some avenues of approach. If you know, just, I'm not telling you to do it, I'm just giving you the information.
yeah,
Sense.
and then you determine stuff going forward.
Right.
That's how that works.
Trying to come up with a course of action now, kind of going forward. Obviously, you're going to have surgery tomorrow, and then kind of see. We got to see what type of follow-up care that he has after that. So there's convalescent leave, which is at the discretion of the commander, and the recommendation of the doctor and discretion of the commander. Convalescent leave means he's still getting paid on active duty. He'll go home for 30 days and recover. But with con leave, he can't be required to have follow-up treatment. If that makes sense. So it could be where he stays, if he has follow-up treatment, it could be where he stays here. He goes along with this follow-up treatment at this hospital. And then when he gets to a stage where it's just now rest and recovery, then they can his commander has authority to put him on comm leave, where he goes home and gets paid on that. Well, he's at home on leave for 30 days, but he's still getting paid. And then you would come back and kind of pick up with a different battalion, obviously, to finish on training. One thing that we are going to look at, I mean, we can explore this with command, see if they can just say if you're a graduate, you're close enough, if they'll waive that, you know, waive the forge, because that was the last thing you were missing, right?
Yeah.
Seeing if they could waive the forge. Now,
Hey, this is Uriah Kennedy with the God and Country podcast, and one of the main reasons why I live in the Rocky Mountains in Utah is because there is nothing I enjoy more like getting out in the great outdoors. I absolutely love getting out there and camping, hiking, fishing, everything with my family. We do that every single year. Throughout the winter months, we're up there snowmobiling. The summer months, we're out there RVing or ATVing. We absolutely love it. It's the best time of the year we have together as a family. There's nothing like getting out there with the proper equipment. And we all know and trust Coleman since we were kids. Our parents, our grandparents have used Coleman for generations. They have the best tents, sleeping bags, coolers, cooking materials, and anything else you can possibly think of that you might need while you're out there enjoying the great outdoors. Please support our channel by going to the link in our description or scanning the QR code that's popping up on your screen and going to Coleman to buy all these needs. Whatever it is you can possibly think of, again, from stoves, tents, sleeping bags, coolers, any type of camping utensils, cooking utensils, fuel, whatever it is you can possibly need, click on the link in our description or the QR code that's popping up on your screen. Support the channel by buying any of this outdoor equipment at Coleman. We love the wide variety of products that Coleman has made over the years and how trustworthy those products have been. Coleman has a world-renowned name, something we've grown up trusting, and you know if you can think of it, they probably have it. So again, click on the link in our description or scan the QR code popping up your screen. Support this channel and keep watching.
He keeps going on there, and we don't need to cover all that, but he's legally required to divulge all that information to you. So I know that for a fact. They're legally required to say, okay, you can file complaints here, but he's also trying to downplay it as much as possible because nobody wants any complaints filed.
Yes.
So you can go to the AIG's office, and obviously there was a problem here. But the biggest takeaway I want to take from this thing is he's trying to excuse everything that happened. He says, well, the soldier just lined up out the street with, and we just don't know what's in a soldier's head. And a lot of them are faking it, and just don't want to work and they don't want to train, and which is what I was saying at the very beginning. There's a lot of legitimacy to that. And he's just saying, well, this is what we're confronting. But you don't have an excuse, though. You can't treat everybody like everybody's a problem child. Our police forces have massive problems with this, where you can get pulled over for a common speeding ticket and they'll treat you like the worst criminal on the planet. Because they see crap all day long, and they see the worst all day long, and they just treat everybody the same way. Our policemen have major problems with this, and they're not trained to treat everybody individually. And I've said this many times. You can go up to a car with your hand in your gut, because last car you went up to, they started shooting at you. The drill sergeants can do the same thing. The last platoon, I had 5 or 6 soldiers that are a complete waste of time and shouldn't have been there. I hear all those stories from my own kids, and just the kids are just a complete waste of time and making the entire platoon do push-ups and stuff like that because they're just screwing off. I hear all that. But if you're a drill sergeant, if you're a police officer, you can't treat everybody the same. You even though you're seeing crap all day long, you're seeing excuses all day long, you're seeing the worst all day long, you got to start seeing through that and being a human being. And they're just not. They're just not.
Yeah.
They just don't have that differentiation at all.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to give them an excuse, but there's no excuse for this, because I go back to that van. That commander should have known that the second she saw that.
Yeah.
And then once they got to the hospital, they all should have woken up that second time in the hospital. But apparently MUSC doesn't wake up, and there's a problem there too. So I don't know.
And once they really knew he's in the ICU on Thursday, he should have never been left alone. Like, in my mind, why on earth would you have a kid get ambulanced to one hospital? They said it wasn't a high enough trauma hospital. Ambulance to another one. He's in the ICU, and you don't have someone there with him. Like,
They don't
immediately,
even clean them up, nothing.
Nothing.
In the ICU. You're in an ICU, and they don't even open it up?
they don't even clean him up. I get there on Saturday morning, and I cleaned my son's leg.
What were the conditions in this hospital?
So it was, I guess this is common in South Carolina in the hospital, but there was mold up in the right-hand corner above his bed. They say it gets like that because of the humidity. The staff, for the most part, so if I'm taking the doctors out of it, the staff was amazing. But I think the women also felt for me because they could see me getting in, people trying to intimidate me all the way around, and I was being told I was wrong, and they all had kids. So the nurses were good that way. The only thing that was hard is, like, they were changing at one point. I think in the recordings they say they threw everything in the kitchen sink at it. They were changing his medication a lot, and I was asking for explanations, as I feel like you should have if you're pumping medicine into your IV.
Yeah, why are you changing course? What was the result of the last one?
Yeah, they did respect my son's wishes. My son did ask to not be given any opiates. So you'll find later that that's kind of used as something against Kayden, saying that he was in his right mind to sign things because he was refusing opiates, which, like, no, he was in, like, the maximum amount of pain you can be in because he was refusing opiates, but he was refusing opiates because he's seen what that can do when you're put on stuff like that. And
I also heard somebody tell him, oh, if you had taken more painkillers, that would have helped you heal. You're not healing because you didn't take the painkillers.
Yeah.
I didn't know painkillers helped you
Heal.
heal.
Yeah. When I first got there, one of the first things that they talked to me about in the hall was that I needed to go in and convince him that he needed pain medication. And I said, if my son told you not to give him pain medicine, then you're going to honor my son's wishes and not give him pain medicine. You don't know what his reason is for that. But they wanted him to be on pain medicine because of how high his blood pressure was and the other things. But I'm like, I'm not going to go in and convince him to let you shoot this into his IV when he's asking you not to. So then the neck, you hear him say that surgery is scheduled. So then they cancel the surgery. And the next day they cancel the surgery, and the liaison calls me on the phone and says that I've got so many eyes on this situation that they are not comfortable sending him back to Utah as a graduate anymore because of me getting everyone involved the way I have.
Well, they just now want to sweep it under the rug. This is getting way too much attention. We're getting way too much heat for this. There's too many eyes on this thing. This needs to go away.
Which you'd think they'd like just graduate him so we can be done with this.
This needs to go away.
Exactly. I'm sure that looking back on it, they wish they would have graduated him, because what happened is I fight to get him home. And so you're talking.
Did he ever get surgery over there? No. So how did that work where you finally got him out of there? Let's go back to that first.
So they were all in there on the Sunday. They all told me they'd figure out a new plan on the Monday. You hear me begging for them to get him out of that hospital. Come Thursday, he's still at that hospital.
Later, he's still there.
And so I had finally got the right people in Utah. I got in touch with he was a retired general of the Utah National Guard, who got a colonel in the Utah National Guard, who said, get my boy home. Like, I don't care what you got to do. You're going to get my kid back to Utah. And so they told us that he had to be released from the hospital to Fort Jackson for the one night. So they told me that I had to go, they would put me in the Fisher house for the one night to release him from the hospital. He had to go on Fort Jackson, stay that night there.
Why?
To do all of his out paperwork. Okay. So this is where it gets really crazy for me, and where I really am like, they better fix all of this or I will go as far as I can. Because what happens is they take me to the Fisher house. They send someone to come get Kayden from Fort Jackson. Kayden gets taken on base at Fort Jackson that night. And I get to the Fisher house, and the incredible staff at the Fisher house asks me why Kayden isn't brought there. And I said, well, I don't know, like, can he? And they're like, yeah, he needs to be in the most safe, sterile environment he could be in. Where's he at? And I said, well, I think he's going to be at the hospital or whatever, med bay or whatever on base. Like, I'm sure he's going to be at med bay on base, because the kid still has a serious infection. He still has a fever, right? Like, he's going to be at the med bay on base. And she said, no, I bet you he's not. And I think he should be here. And she said, you need to call. You need to call the commander, and you need to tell them that they need to bring him to the Fisher house. So I call the commander on speakerphone with the Fisher house people. And she says, oh, she doesn't answer. So then I have text messages with her, and her entire tone changes with me. Like, it is a drastic change. It's not the pleading her whatever she was doing in the hospital. It's like, we are not going to do that. I said, okay, where is he? She said, he's in the barracks.
Yep. I knew it.
So when the next day comes, I didn't sleep like all night. I mean, the Fisher house was disgusted. Everybody's disgusted. Like, he is on crutches. His leg is as purple and as swollen as you see. Like, if you see the pictures of taking him
this
straight.
Is the same commander that was in the van.
Yeah, the
Total
pictures.
DEI hire.
Yep. The pictures of taking him from the base that next day to the airport. I take pictures of him all along the way. They didn't even wrap his leg. He has an infection, and he doesn't even have his leg wrapped at the airport. But what I come to find out is she takes him to her office. Commander Jackson takes him to her office that night. She tells him, you know, your mom shouldn't be making these decisions for you. Like, you should be a man. You need to stay here and get treated here, whatever. When she cannot convince him to not go with me, they have him sign that he is financially responsible and that he lost his helmet. He lost his helmet, and they're charging him $500 for his helmet. His helmet that got lost when he was taken by ambulance to the ICU. She has him sign that. And this is where they use that he's not on opiates, Brandie. Yeah, he's freaking septic. He goes from there to the airport on a 5-hour flight with his leg like this, gets to a hospital in Utah and has emergency surgery. What? You took $500 from him for a helmet What was he going to do with it? He was in an ambulance, right? And you try to bully him into staying there because you don't want this coming to the light of day, what is happening. Like, you don't want people seeing how bad this is. And so she tries to convince him to stay there. And when she cannot convince him and she has him sign that stuff, she has him go the 3 flights of stairs to the barracks, which his battle buddy had to carry him up to. Not only did his battle buddy have to carry my son up to the barracks, they moved my son's bed. This is what his men did for him. This is how incredible our soldiers are and why they deserve better. Because my son was on a top bunk, they switched him on a bottom, and there were people taking care of him throughout the night, giving him Tylenol and taking care of him throughout the night that night.
Yeah, they would have done that.
Yeah. The next day, they tell me to meet Kayden in a Walmart parking lot where they drop him off for me to take him to the...
So they wanted to let you on base?
No. And they wouldn't bring him to the Fisher house, which the Fisher house was like, they are telling you to meet him at the Walmart parking lot. I was like, yeah, can you please tell me where the Walmart is? Because I'm from Utah and I've been to like Arizona and California and that's it. Like,
seriously, they wouldn't let you on base.
No.
Anybody can go on base. Just
no. They met us in a Walmart parking lot. When they got there, they realized they had forgot some of Kayden's paperwork. They waited for a minute, brought us some stuff. They gave me all of the stuff that they had. When we got to the airport, they told me what flight to book for myself going home so I could be on the airplane. So when we got to the airport...
So they booked the flight for him?
They booked a flight for Kayden, yes. And they told me which one it was. So when we got to the airport and I went up to the Delta thing to check us in, the Delta guy told me that there was no record of Kayden having a flight. And I'm like, they told me which flight to book. So I get the liaison on the phone and he is like, you guys are, what did he call us? You guys are irresponsible. You would have his ticket. Like the paperwork was with you. It took the Delta attendant saying, let me explain something to you. If there was ever a flight booked for Kayden Page, whether it was canceled or not, it would be in our system. His name would be in our system. It's not. There was not a flight booked for him. And so I had to call Colonel Adamson with the Utah National Guard to get on the phone to be working out a flight for Kayden. We were at the airport and the Utah side is trying to work out the flight. The liaison calls us back and says, oh, we have it now. They hadn't even booked it. Like, it was like the amount of retaliation that came from the minute that we left the hospital, getting him back to the barracks, taking him into a room, calling him a mama's boy, telling him like he's not a man, sending him up to the barracks like that for all the other men there to treat him or take care of him.
Charging him for a helmet, transport loss.
Yeah, charging him for a helmet, sending us to the airport, not booking his flight. Like, could you retaliate more? And then also, why are you treating him like this when you did this? It's not like he could have said, listen, I don't agree with your treatment of me. I'm taking myself to the hospital. They make that very clear that we would get in trouble if I pulled him myself, like I say on the recording. They make it very clear that that would be a huge issue and he'd get in trouble.
Well, not only they specifically say the word legal issue. I remember that part. They said it would be a legal issue.
If I pulled him.
Because it'd be pulled in as a court-martial is what it'd be pulled in as, and he'd be court-martialed and dishonorably
So
discharged.
my son, who can't even make a determination to take himself to the hospital at basic, could be court-martialed for trying to make sure he doesn't die. But all these people that did all these things that are on record didn't get court-martialed.
Yeah. They wanted him court-martialed because then they could wipe his hands off and say, no, he's out. He's not our problem anymore.
Yeah. And so we get back and I find out that he gets charged the $500 for the helmet. We at this point, we're like, we're just happy we have him here. Like, we're at
How
IHC
was that
hospital.
flight? 'Cause that's a long flight.
It was horrible.
Because he'd had to have his leg down.
So the Delta attendant or the Delta person working, they don't typically let you sit. You don't even get to decide if you sit together. So we weren't even we wouldn't have been able to sit together. But because of how he heard the liaison was speaking to me on the phone, and I was crying, and you could see my son, he had his army bag. He was in, I think he had like his army sweatshirt. But he had shorts on. He was in a wheelchair. His leg was fully exposed, which looking back on that, like I feel so bad, like as his mom, like it shouldn't have been like that. I had a blanket for him, but like we took him straight from base to we went straight to that airport, like straight from Walmart parking lot to the airport, because I was like, I don't care how early we're at the airport. We have got to get to the airport to get out of here. It was just that bad. So they felt horrible for us. So the Delta people that man was amazing. And there was another woman there. Like, I will always be thankful. They made sure we were together and that Kayden would be in the aisle. And so, but it was like hell. I mean, it was a 5-hour or so flight.
He had to have gotten his leg up. Or did he say sat down the whole
His leg was out in the aisle. And then he would lay on me. And then a couple of times he put his leg up on me. The cute girl sitting next to us, like we kept telling her, like, we're so sorry. The flight attendant brought Kayden Tylenol. And you could see how much pain everyone around us could see how much pain he was in. But especially the flight attendant. And anytime we hit any kind of turbulence or anything, like he was just, I mean, the whole flight, it was.
I don't know how he made it, because having your leg de-elevated like that had to have been horrendous.
Yeah. He said, like, out of everything, I think that besides the actual surgery itself, that was the most painful thing that he went through.
So 5-hour flight, you get to Salt Lake.
He comes home for that night. Take him to the hospital in the morning. We knew he was going to be admitted because that's what the infectious disease doctor told us.
Him that night, then?
No, we got in at 9:30 that night, and Kayden really wanted to go home and sleep in his bed that night, and so we went home and we slept in his bed.
And nobody met you at the
begging
airport?
him not to.
Nobody from the Utah.
No, but the second that we landed, the Utah National Guard, who's been with Kayden the whole time. His name's Sergeant Bo. He's absolutely incredible. The second the plane landed, like he was getting text messages from Bo, and Bo had said, if you want to go home, because like we were like, we have to go straight to the hospital. But Kayden had asked, and he said, if you want to go home for tonight, that's fine. Then get to the hospital in the morning. And then we went to the hospital in the morning to the ER at Leighton IHC. And at this point, you'd think that we would know that there was a 11-centimeter abscess because, right, they've tested everything. They've done MRIs, right? Yeah. We were under the impression from what the hospital was telling us was that it was just his knee. As soon as we got to the hospital the next day, I think it was maybe like 28 minutes from when they did the MRI, it came back with an 11-centimeter abscess taking up Kayden's thigh. So in 2 weeks of being in from the first hospital visit on the Monday,
both MUSC and Premier,
no record of an abscess. And then a second, we're at IHC Hospital in Leighton.
Prisma Health, so it's Prisma Baptist and...
Yeah. And then the second, we're at IHC. There's an 11-centimeter abscess. He needs surgery. They need to go in and get the abscess out in his thigh and clean out his knee. And yeah, they told us that it would be, I guess, when he's like, if you just take sepsis,
and we're showing it now.
You're looking at a 12-month recovery. He's like, then he's got rhabdomyolysis. It was starting to eat the tissues in his leg and thigh. And then the acute kidney injury, and then, sorry, it's like so hard to look at. It makes me so angry. And then the acute kidney injury and stuff, like they told us that we were looking at probably like 12 months of recovery. So we were giving everything over to the National Guard that the doctors were saying. And then we had submitted everything with TRICARE, and then it came back.
I mean, this, I'm just going to pull this up. I mean, this is leaving the hospital, right, when he's going to the airport? How big that thing is. And they don't think there's an abscess. They don't think there's any more serious problem. They can just, we'll just do some IV antibiotics and he's going to be good.
Yeah, as you heard on the phone, he's like, oh, this is getting so much better. They say that a lot. There was actually an infectious disease doctor who does not normally, like from what I understand, he is only called into Prisma when he wrote one of the doctor's notes enabling Kayden to fly. He was the only bright spot in the whole situation at that hospital, because he was the doctor that was coming in as the infectious disease doctor that was like, you need to get him home. You need to get him home and get him treated in Utah. Like he was like, you need to not let anyone tell you what you're doing is wrong. You need to not let anyone convince you. Cause like at that point it was everyone against me.
So he's saying my hospital's crap. Like we're not going to take care of it.
He's saying if it's telling you to, if your gut is telling you to get him home, you need to get him home. And he really, really was great. Cause he's like, I need to know that he's safe to fly. But as soon as I've done everything and I can safely say he's safe to fly, I will help you get him home. And that was like a doctor that has a kid in the military too. He was probably like my only advocate through the whole situation, was that infectious disease doctor. And thank goodness he was there, because he was the only one telling me I wasn't crazy. So then when we get him home and that comes back with the abscess, I'm just like, in nothing in 2 weeks is there anything about an abscess. Nothing. And when I pulled all his medical documents, nothing. And it's not small. It's 11 centimeters. Like
They didn't look.
Yeah, they didn't look. And so when I'm screaming at all of them, like, hey, I am not comfortable here. It was like, then we come back and I pull all the documents. I'm like, it was so proven. There was a really good reason that I wasn't comfortable.
There was no acknowledgement of the MRI report. What was it?
They never talked to me about it. They never talked to me about it.
So you don't have the results from that MRI?
No. I think it's in his medical documents, but they never came in and talked to us about the MRI. They just would come in and say it was getting better.
He asked you the question, the doctor, when he came and asked you, or you asked him, did you read the MRI? And he doesn't even acknowledge the question. That is so insulting. I can't even imagine. I would have been pissed.
Yeah.
I would have stood up in my chair, got in front of his face and said, did you look at the MRI? And if not, get the hell out of here. I want a different doctor.
Yeah. It was right after that I was yelling when they were on the phone with someone saying, I want him out of here. But like, I just assumed that they would see what I was seeing. Surgery is being set and canceled. You're looking at his leg. There's someone from the base in his room right now saying, I've never seen anything like this. I don't understand how this would have happened. I'm so sorry. Me and my wife would be doing this. So in my mind, I was like, they're going to make sure. Because you just think that it's the military. They're going to make sure he's taken care of.
I'd like to do a post video to this and just maybe do like a 15-minute video interviewing the IHC doctor that treated him.
That would be great. There's two doctors at IHC. The one who actually did the surgery,
and just
Tensmeyer,
doctor to report exactly what they saw.
So he is amazing. The guy that did the surgery is amazing. But what was also really interesting about bringing him back to IHC, and should tell you a lot about Kayden's injury, is he pulled in the other doctor at Layton IHC who does sports medicine and has worked at a military base in South Carolina. I don't think it was Fort Jackson. I think it was the Marine one or something there. But anyways, he pulled him in to come and look at Kayden just to like tell him what happened to Kayden. So Kayden's surgeon pulls in the sports doctor too, and he comes in and sits down and talks to us too. And I think that was hard, because it's like, I have these professionals coming in saying, how did this happen? Like, how do you have this happen? You know, that would be fascinating to actually like.
Well, let's set that up. Let's do a post one, and we'll post it up on here. Just maybe a little 15-1 interview with the physician, so he can fully disclose medical terminology of what he saw when he came in.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Well, they had the surgery. So just describe how the surgery went and what was the post-treatment.
Yeah, so you saw the pictures of it. They had a drain coming out of his knee and a drain coming out of his thigh. And then it was at that point, because of the rhabdomyolysis and it eating the tissues, his leg,
necrotic.
his leg ended up getting smaller, obviously, because you lose eats your muscle and everything. So Kayden has spent, the surgery was in August, like at the very end of August, beginning of September of last year. And so he spent all over the holidays, continuing to work out, just trying to build up his strength, everything. He's still going to his monthly drill and all that stuff once he could after surgery. And then come January, Kayden starts asking the doctor, do you think I can be cleared soon? I want to just go get this done. I want to get reinserted. They had told him he would be reinserted into the final phase of boot camp. I'm getting there. So they made the decision to clear him as of May 1st. You can go back to finish your saying everything, as of May 1st. And so since January, when they made that decision, from my understanding, the Utah side, including the congressman's office, trying to get all the paperwork, trying to get everything from Fort Jackson that they needed to even put him back. And they were just hitting wall after wall after wall. And then when they finally sent paperwork, they sent it blank. From what I understand, they sent Kayden's commander's statement to Utah. And one of the people that read it in Utah was like, it's just full of lies. It's not at all telling the truth of what happened. So they had that. And
So she's still there. She's not.
I think she's in, I think she, if she's telling the truth, she's in Texas. So, cause that's what she said. She said, they can do whatever they want to me. I'm going to be in Texas in a month. So
Then why lie?
well, if you're protecting yourself only, and they had told us that they wrote up, she told us in his hospital room that she would be going and doing rips on, I think that's what they're called, rips, on the sergeants or whatever. And we have been told by Fort Jackson that none of that ever happened. None of the sergeants were disciplined. We were told that it was our word against them. And so that's where they came down on it and that's what Blake Moore's office told me. So that's what they were told, is that no one was disciplined. And so we're back here trying to get him back in. TRICARE has denied all of his claims. He doesn't have a record of having TRICARE. We're told that he would have been needed to be seen on base in order for that to work. But he didn't have a CAD card or anything. There's no way for us to go on base.
The second you enlist, you have it. So they're just not pushing the paperwork. They're purposely not pushing the paperwork.
Mm-hmm. And so, we started getting the medical bills for him and all of that stuff, which we weren't expecting. So then we're again reaching out, trying to be like, hey, can you guys fix this TRICARE? And can you get him back in
office
training?
can't fix the TRICARE at all?
They are working on it. But I think what's really hard is I don't think Utah has ever dealt with anything like this.
Well, they're probably not. The two bases are probably not communicating very well. Jackson is trying to throw this under the rug and get rid of it, disclose as little as possible, because they know that Utah has every ability to divulge this to anybody. They're not. Utah's not here to protect Fort Jackson. So they know that for a fact. Is if we disclose this to a third party, an outside party that doesn't know how to protect this, then we're out in the open. We're going to be disclosed, and so they're not.
And they certainly don't want somebody else telling them what to do.
Well, it's not even that. It's
You don't think?
the Utah office would just disclose this to the superiors in a heartbeat.
South Carolina is absolutely making an example out of me. Absolutely. They
Well, they're
are
just throwing it under the rug.
absolutely making sure that what happens to Kayden, they made it so clear that they were going to make an example out of me. And they said multiple times that it was not normal for parents to come down there. And I was like, is it normal for a parent to get a call from an ICU doctor instead of, if you guys had called me, if you had someone with him, You know, the ICU doctor told me no one had been with Kayden. So my brain, as his mom, is going, he's scared, he's hurt, he's sick, he has his kidneys possibly failing. They're saying that there's a 50-50 chance that he could die, and he's all alone. Like, you guys could have handled it so differently, but it became like my fault. And even with them not graduating him and not reinserting him into the final phase of boot camp, that has turned into like my fault too, because like I did these things. I got involved. I made it.
Took him off base and left the state. It's not your fault.
Yep. I took him from the hospital that I was screaming, saying that like, hey, this isn't being handled correctly. And if I came back to Utah and we took him to a hospital here and they fixed, like, right, he didn't have to have any further treatment. He has, it's exactly what they were doing. Then, like, I could see, like, okay, this mom's just really wants her son and her care, right? But no, he comes back to Utah and he has emergency surgery.
Which is why I want to interview the doctors, because the world needs to know exactly how bad this was.
Yeah.
They were leaving him to die. My understanding is you said there was a soldier that died before and after this incident.
Mm-hmm. There was a soldier who died in May of that year. So Kayden's accident, what happened to Kayden was in August. There was a soldier who died in May, and then there was a soldier who died 2 months ago. I'm not sure what happened to the soldier in May, but the one that's most recent, what I was told from Blake Moore's office is that it was a suicide on base.
Well, there's many of those. There's many of those. My sons lived through, all of them lived through several of those. So those are common. Sadly common. Yeah, I mean, my youngest son, he lived through, I think, 2 of them within his own regiment that committed suicide. My older son went through like 3 of them.
All the more reason that our military men and women should have the best of the best here.
Yeah. Well, then they should have psychological help too, because again, when the vast majority of these people that join the military are trying to escape from something, they don't have any money to get in college. They don't have the grades to get into college. Mm-hmm. If they don't get off the streets, they're probably going to get killed on the streets. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are a lot of the kids that are going into the military, and then they go into something that's so regimented, it's so different from what they're used to, and they still have all that old baggage.
Yeah.
I mean, my sons have talked. They've talked to other military privates and stuff like that they've seen death already. They've had multiple friends shot on the streets, killed in gang battles, other suicides, stuff like that through high school. So they're already bringing a lot of baggage. They have very dysfunctional families. Parents are probably not getting along. Divorce. I mean, you name it, it's in the military. So, and there's no psychological help for any of them. There's no therapist. There's no psychologist there to kind of talk them off the cliff.
And our leaders shouldn't be just making that talking points and no action. It should actually be, hey, we're putting these young men and women in this position. Most of them don't have anything to lose.
I was surprised at just what Hegseth came out and said, because Hegseth came out and said, look, we're going to fix the barracks. We're going to make the barracks nicer. Just that alone is huge.
Yeah.
Because I've seen pictures of these barracks. I've been in a few of them.
Yeah.
We as family were able to take tours, and then when they're in active duty, I actually went on base a few times with my oldest son and visited them on base and brought them some pizza and stuff like that. And I know what they're living in, and a lot of these barracks are very run down.
That's what shocked me about them taking him back in that condition that you saw to the barracks. Is I'm like, I mean, in what world is that? Okay, he has an infection. Now you're putting him around all those other soldiers too. He's in filthy conditions. Like,
well, lucky that the barracks are incredibly clean. They're not good condition because they're all broken down, but
they're clean.
They should be clean.
Oh, the soldiers, well, depending on how good the soldiers are, most soldiers keep their places pretty clean, and the drill sergeants come through and they can really hose down the floors and stuff like that. I've seen that too, but there's a lot of things in error throughout this thing, but I'm still pointing down to that first soldier at MUSC. That first doctor screwed everything up. He started the first domino. Mm-hmm. But it should have stopped in the van with the commander. And the fact that she comes and excusing it the whole time in the hospital room, and then what she did when you're trying to get him off base, is completely and utterly inexcusable. She should be court-martialed in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And that really needs to have a lot of blowback on her. And then what happened over Prisma is completely inexcusable too, because they just, I don't know how you have 3 problems in a row and nobody fixes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is...
And then you make the mom and the patient feel crazy because they're saying like, hey, we've had like a breakdown of all these things and now like we actually need serious medical treatment, and they're not doing it either, you know, like they schedule surgery, cancel surgeries. And it seemed very strange that like the base was communicating with the doctor and then the doctor was coming in and changing treatment. Because it was like the base doctor was communicating with the hospital doctor, and then Kayden's treatment kept changing, and that's what was so weird to me is I'm like, he either needs surgery or he doesn't, but you guys are scheduling it and canceling it and scheduling it and canceling it. Like it felt like they didn't know what they were doing, and I guess I just thought if I'm telling you with like proof, like, hey, his leg wasn't even cleaned up in 3 days, you know. The wound wasn't debris stuff, like they would instantly move him, which is how they made it sound when they were in the room. But then the week just kept going. And not only did it keep going, it's like I got called the next day and I said, well, you're going to send him to Colonel Hargrove. I said, you're going to send him home on, or Harward. I cannot remember which one it is for the life of me. But I said, you're going to send him home on scent leave. Like, right? That's what you said yesterday. And he said, oh, no, the Army's not going to pay for that.
Oh, they could pay for it if he asked for it.
I know.
He's a commander.
That's what blows my mind is, wait, what? Like, because you're not responsible. There was no, I think that was the most shocking thing is there was no accountability at all. It got put on the kid who could not make any of the decisions for himself on when, where, whatever, treatment, where to go, nothing. He could not make the decision to leave the forge on his own. He couldn't walk away. He was completely reliant on them to take care of him, which is how basic is. So if basic is like that, and I get it, why they do that. I do. I get why it's strict. I get why they're hard on them. I get all of that, right? But if basic is like that, then the men and women that are there also have to have some securities, and they have to have accountability too. So it should have been them saying, we are so sorry that this happened to you and there was a breakdown in communication, whether it was the commander or the hospital or whatever, and we are going to take care of you. Yeah.
Well, you've went to two civilian hospitals, and neither one of them figure this thing out.
3.
I mean, that's outside the military. I mean, you can't count the one you got transferred from, but the 2 that knew better, those 2 main hospitals are civilian hospitals, running military hospitals. They need to be called out. Mm-hmm. And then the military itself is dropped some serious balls.
MUSC, I really struggle because I've met other families, and it's not just one soldier's story of being pushed out of that ER and made to feel like they're a nuisance and stuff. And I get you're going to have people that are just saying whatever they have to get out of the training that day, or maybe they just really want a day in a hospital bed instead of in the barrack, whatever it is, right? But when you have a girl have a stroke and a boy almost die of sepsis in 4 months, like, to me, it's like immediate. Your thing is, if you are really leading, it's I'm going to meet with anyone and everyone to fix what we have happening here. And they would not meet with me, and they wouldn't meet with our congressman's office.
So let's go from there. What is happening with the congressman, with Blake Moore? What's happening since then? He's obviously still in the National Guard, so he's going to his 1 week in a month. I'm assuming he spent his summer 2 weeks there this last summer too. Is it 1 week in a month and 2 weeks out of each summer?
No, they didn't do the 2 weeks. But I don't know if that's because where he goes is not where his MOS is. It's where they go when they sign up before they've completed bootcamp, right?
That'd be why. So he's just doing the 1 week in a month right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his Utah military staff saying right now, and what have you gone through since then?
Hey, this is Uriah Kennedy with the God and Country podcast, and they're one of the main reasons why I live in the Rocky Mountains in Utah is because there is nothing I enjoy more like getting out in the great outdoors. I absolutely love getting out there and camping, hiking, fishing, everything with my family. We do that every single year. Throughout the winter months, we're up there snowmobiling. The summer months, we're out there RVing or ATVing. We absolutely love it. It's the best time of the year we have together as a family. There's nothing like getting out there with the proper equipment. And we all know and trust Coleman since we were kids. Our parents, our grandparents have used Coleman for generations. They have the best tents, sleeping bags, coolers, cooking materials, and anything else you can possibly think of that you might need while you're out there enjoying the great outdoors. Please support our channel by going to the link in our description or scanning the QR code that's popping up on your screen and going to Coleman to buy all these needs. Whatever it is you can possibly think of, again, from stoves, tents, sleeping bags, coolers, any type of camping utensils, cooking utensils, fuel, whatever it is you can possibly need, click on the link in our description or the QR code that's popping up on your screen. Support the channel by buying any of this outdoor equipment at Coleman. We love the wide variety of products that Coleman has made over the years and how trustworthy those products have been. Coleman has a world-renowned name, something we've grown up trusting, and you know if you can think of it, they probably have it. So again, click on the link in our description or scan the QR code popping up your screen. Support this channel and keep watching.
So they told us that they had to file an appeal, and they did. The Utah side filed an appeal. At first, for the first few months, it's been like they couldn't get paperwork and stuff back from Fort Jackson. Their hands were just like so tied. They were going back and forth with Pentagon and stuff. And then finally, about a month, maybe a little longer ago, Colonel Adamson said, I'm definitely making some headway now. I've filed everything for the appeal. They're basically waiting on the decision. The appeal came back, and it says it changes like when his date of when he has to have all this stuff done is, which is in 2027. But they don't guarantee that they're going to reinsert him into the final phase. And like, just to explain, with a kid who was, I mean, literally he was being transported to the hospital when his whole rest of his group marched in and are considered soldiers. At that point, he could have been in the hospital following 4 hours, 6 hours later. He could have been in the hospital for the rest of the time and still done graduation. They would have still considered him a soldier. That's how close it was. So he doesn't want to start over. He doesn't feel like he should have to start over. And he's been promised and told several times that he would get reinserted into the final phase. So that's what Utah side has been working on the whole time. When the paperwork came back, it did not specify that he would be inserted into the final phase. I know that was Utah side's goal. That's what they were pushing for. And then when he was at drill this last weekend, they told him that there was stuff that was not filed timely and that more than likely he will be discharged, not medically or anything, just a regular discharge, and he would have to re-enlist and start all over. That was my son's question, and we don't have confirmation on whether or not that's the Army side of it with South Carolina or the National Guard side of it with Utah. But it's not something Kayden could have filed. So
yeah, not his problem, right? Not his problem. So it doesn't matter who didn't file on time, and this is probably where someone's trying to shove something under the rug, knew that time would lapse, and then let it expire.
Yeah, and I had seen back when he first came home, I said, "You guys are acting like your hands are tied and all of this stuff." There are a lot of people who get waivers at basic for certain things that like they just can't complete it before graduation, and it ends up being an exception. And I'm like, there's a lot of exceptions. There's been other situations where they've had like you have to have a certain star general. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 star general sign off on, this is extreme circumstances kind of a thing. So there are other precedents for this. Like there are other things that have happened that they've done that for. But for whatever reason with my son, they have not done that. And I mean, the Utah side, they've gone, I know that they believe me with what happened. They came right away. We sat down. I played everything for them. I told them everything. But it seems like whatever didn't get done at Fort Jackson that was supposed to be done has strangled the Utah side of it. And then the one thing that still really bothers me is like when we did meet with the Utah side and I'm bringing up like, hey, they had a kid in this condition sign things, like sign that he was responsible in this condition. And the guy says to me, well, you said yourself your son wasn't on opiates. And I'm like, do you understand anything about being septic, having an infection, his leg swollen? The fact that he wasn't on opiates does not mean in any kind of way that he was more suitable to sign that paperwork. If anything, he was probably in the most amount of pain you could actually imagine, which is what every doctor has told us, like how painful this would be. The infectious disease doctor was terrified of Kayden getting on the airplane. Like he literally said to me, if I could fly you, if I had the resources to fly you home private right now, I would, because he was terrified of him getting on the airplane. So no, like he should have never been in a position to sign anything. But the Utah side was like asking him why he signed this.
People don't understand how dangerous that is. When you have your leg down for that long, it could clot. And you're talking heart attack, stroke, or pulmonary embolism, one of the three.
Yep.
That's why he didn't want to get on the plane, because you could have been mid-flight, have a pulmonary embolism, heart attack, or stroke. It's where a clot either goes to the heart, the lungs, or the brain, right? One of the three.
Well,
all it has to do is dislodge. When you're sepsis like that and you're that swollen, you can guarantee there's buildup within the arteries that could have very, very happened. It's
and a day or two
miracle in and of
before.
itself. It's God intervening.
Yeah.
That kept him alive on that plane.
Yeah.
Because that could have happened.
And a day or two before, when they were touching his leg, the doctor's fingers were staying imprinted in his leg for a decent amount of time. Like I have never seen that before.
That's a demon.
And so, yeah. And so it's like, and I did not think of that. Like my brain was get him to a hospital in Utah.
So what's the next step right now?
So right now he's waiting to find out if they're discharging him, which right now his sergeant at drill has said that there was somebody out of whoever it is that knows for sure whether that's going to happen. I want to say his last name's Harris, and the Utah National Guard was out of the country, and he was waiting to make sure that that's what's happening, but to plan on he would be being fully discharged.
So who do you think is making that decision? Is it the Utah office that has to make that decision, or is it the Pentagon that has to make that decision?
I think it's the Pentagon. I think if it were up to Utah, they would have paid Kayden for all the time he was down. He would have been graduated and he would already be AIT. I think that it's above Utah making these decisions, because the way that Utah's been, I mean, yes, it does feel like they've never had a situation like this before and they did not know what to do, but they have been Kayden first. They've been the only part of this process that has been Kayden first.
And what's coming out of Blake Moore's office right now? What has his office been doing, has said?
Well, they closed it. I love who works on this at Blake Moore's office. Hunter's amazing, and he would be a great resource to talk, if he can talk to you. He kept a very detailed notes of everything that was done, and I think he followed it as far as he could. And then every time I talked to him, I would reiterate, can you see if Blake Moore can get me in front of a congressional hearing? Can you get me in front of a congressional hearing? Please get me in front of a congressional hearing. And Hunter said every time, like, Blake's not on any thing like that right now. Like there's nothing that it would fit into like that right now. But Hunter was just getting...
That's why we got to get to Lee's office. He's got some pretty sway.
Yeah. He was getting like... It was like the Pentagon is telling him what they're telling him, but then Fort Jackson, that it couldn't like just all of them come together and just talk about it together. he almost had me a meeting. Like, he was like, I think they're finally, Fort Jackson's leadership is open to talking to us now. And then he was like, communication just stopped.
Did he give you any advice of what to do if he is discharged? Is there any recourse? No.
No, it would just be completely starting over, which there's no way.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah. There's no way. I mean, it's scary talking about it in the first place because you don't know who's going to like retaliate, right? And so I didn't really want it to get like that, but I also really wanted to go in front of a congressional hearing because to me, I was like, well, that's not like yes, it's going public, but it's not like going crazy with it. It's just getting it to the people that can start to look at it and change it. And we need the changes at these bases. I don't know, and I'm sure it depends on who they have, where they have them, right? But the man who we met with, he graduated from the Missouri basic training, and he told my son that there was a day that they like worked out or whatever, and he was just showing a little sign of dehydration. Like, he's like, I thought I was okay, but they said that my coloring was off and they ambulanced him right away. And so he's like, you just learn that they take it serious. Different places take it more seriously, less seriously. Different places are having more accidents than others.
Depends on leadership.
Yes.
All based on leadership.
And to me, if you're a leader and you're not willing to meet with the parents of like, or the
sergeants
soldier
do exactly what their leadership tells them to do. If they tell their drill sergeants to handle medical things seriously, they'll do it. If they say no, don't worry about it, they won't do it.
Yeah.
So it's all coming from the top. So it's all coming from that commander.
Yeah.
She's probably part of the problem. Maybe even her superior is part of the problem.
Well,
not taking it seriously.
Yeah. And then, I mean, our men and women need to understand what their rights are going to basic. Like if I had believed them, I would have left the hospital. But that's not true. He's in a public hospital. He has every right to call me or have me there. He has every right to ask for additional care. He has every right to ask to contact me and his dad. He can ask to contact a lawyer. That is like, I want, because for my son has been an athlete his whole life. He's had coaches his whole life. Like it was very much in his wheelhouse to go to basic. He did what he was told to do. He'll never go against like I don't think he'll ever go against what he feels like is wrong. But like, he knew that everything he was being told to do, he was to follow the orders, and he did. And he was always respectful and amazing to everyone that came in his room and everything else. But he had no idea he could push back on them. Like at that first hospital, he just did everything he was told. He didn't know he had the right to push back on them. And I didn't really know I had it either. Like when the military came in there, it was like, yes, I'm going to do what you tell me to. So the next day when they called me and told me, you need to go home, which now I like think back on it and I'm like, they really couldn't tell me what to do like this. But like the Colonel Hargrove or whatever is like, you need to go home, and we are taking him to Georgia, to the military base in Georgia. And I was like, okay. And I told him, I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me, because you told me in his hospital room that you send kids home because they have someone to help take care of them, unless they're in a situation where they don't have the support system, and then you guys will keep them if it's and you just were told it's a 6-month recovery at least for what he's had gone through. So why would you take him to Georgia? But I was like, yes, sir. And so I called my mom. She got my flight changed, everything. I was going to go home that next day. But then, my son's response to that was, use every dime I have in my checking account to follow me wherever I'm at, and stay wherever you need to stay. Don't leave me. And so I was like, all right, cancel my flight. Like wherever, if he's going to, I had a cousin in Georgia. I'm like calling her, hey, I'm going to probably have to come stay with you. Like I'm be tenting it in front of the base. Like they really, really wanted to separate us. And they really wanted us to just go with what they said.
That's how they finally did it, was sending you to the Fisher house.
Mm-hmm. That night. Exactly. Because, if I was with Kayden, he would have never signed anything that night. but I wasn't with him. And he was told if he didn't sign, he wouldn't go. He wouldn't be let go the next day. So what are you going to do? You're going to sign and go with your mom who's trying to get you the best treatment.
Under duress, under any threats, is not a signature.
Exactly. That's what I said in our meeting. I'm like, I mean, I know they already took the money from him, but
well, they need to be
I
given that
don't
back,
count.
plus all of his back pay. And if they do discharge him, they need to honorably discharge him, put him on VA benefits, because he needs to be able to have those benefits just in case something rears its head in the future.
Exactly. We've been told that once you get sepsis, and the way he got it, you're prone to keep getting it.
Keep getting it, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to discharge him without the VA benefits, and we can't let that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is when I got the call from him on Saturday that they were doing that they were discharging him. And I knew I was going to see Ingrid yesterday. And I was like, for about probably the last 3 months, because it's her best friend who helped me get my son home in the first place. And for like the last 3 months, I was like, if anyone can help me, it's Ingrid. And so when I walked into that room to take the girls to the orthodontist, and I'm like, can you talk to me right now? That's why, because I knew if they tried to discharge him this way, then it was going to be like go time, because I cannot wrap my head around it happening to my son. Obviously, it's my son. I honestly cannot wrap my head around it happening to any of them.
Anybody.
Anyone.
If that was my kid in there, I'd be livid.
Do you know how many people have these situations that they have no one? Like, that's what kills me. Is there was another soldier in that hospital who had no one. They had no one there advocating for them. They didn't have a mom there. They didn't have a dad there. They probably weren't lucky enough to have a doctor call them. Like, they probably weren't lucky enough to have people throw money together to get you on a flight, because that's what happened to me. My husband was ambulanced the same week that my son was in the hospital. We had my husband in the hospital that same year. Last year, we had my husband, my daughter's appendix ruptured, and my son in the hospital in the same year. We had people rally to get me on that plane to South Carolina. We had people sending us money in South Carolina to get food because the hospital food was nasty. Like, we had resources that I would bet the majority of those men and women at basic don't have. I would bet you they don't have that. So we have to be the ones that are like, we're going to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else, because a lot of these other people would have been totally railroaded like they tried to do to my son. They would have been totally railroaded. They would have had no recourse. They would have had no idea who to contact. You know, I was really lucky knowing who to contact. I was really lucky having someone in a position of getting a general on the phone for me. That is not the majority. The other families I've talked to did not have anything like that. And the one who their daughter had a stroke didn't have anything like that. And I mean, yes, they feel like lucky and blessed that their daughter got pay the whole time and got a medical discharge. They're also really honest, and they're like, you know, our daughter might have had a stroke either way. Probably not. There are signs for that they could have given her medicine that most likely would have stopped it, but it could have happened. But they felt outraged that my son didn't actually have a choice and was left in a hole to be septic. Like, he didn't have a say over whether or not it happened. There's no what if on Kayden's side, which was super sweet. Like, they've been incredible to like talk to, and I hate everything that they've gone through and their daughter has gone through. But yeah, it's like you talk to these people and they had no idea where to go. They're like, you can reach out to your congressman, because, you know, their daughter was expected to go back to Fort Jackson to do the medical discharge. And that is a process in its own. They can keep you for months there. Well, you've got trauma from there, like bad. You've had a massive stroke there. You don't want to be taken away from your family to go back there and do that. And so I'm like,
well, it's
reach out
also
to
how they're going to treat you while you're there waiting to get discharged.
Exactly.
It's not fun.
Yeah. Watching, there is no other way to describe it than retaliation. Yeah. Like,
well, they'll have you sleeping floors and raking leaves until kingdom come. That's not going to be good.
Which is that's wild to me, because it's like, you caused this. They were trying to serve their country, trying to like do something for someone else. you caused this, and then you get pushback, and your instincts is to defend, they wrapped around each other, defending each other, and then immediately retaliated. And it was all of them that retaliated. That's what blows my mind, is it's like his commander takes him in and does that, but then it was the liaison's responsibility to book my son's flight, which that, depending on who you ask, like the other families were flown, the other two families I've talked to, they were flown out and flown home.
Military or?
The military took care of that stuff. With me, they didn't take care of anything. They didn't take care of anything. And those other families think it was because I was in there asking questions and demanding like a different hospital and stuff. Whereas like, you know, their kid was in critical, like they were in a different situation. Yeah.
Well, we need this to go viral. I mean, we need this to go viral. This video needs to get into everybody's ears. I mean, it needs to go to the Pentagon. Hegseth needs to hear it.
We need to make changes. There needs to be, talk about reparation. There needs to be reparation. We need to take care of the money that was taken from him. We need to get these hospital bills covered.
I mean, we need you as the audience to literally make this thing go viral. We need MUSC to hear this and get right to the hospital so they know that this is live. Prisma Health needs to see this so they know this is live. All the military needs to see this. Hegseth himself. So if somebody out there knows how to get this that high, I mean, this needs to go everywhere so we can solve this problem. The other thing, if you are military or a family military going through similar circumstance, we want to hear from you. We want to bring you on the podcast and make this go viral as well. So get a hold of us at USA@godandcountrypodcast.com, and let's bring you on, and let's bring any other families going through similar circumstances onto the podcast. And
if anybody knows the Delta agent, if any Delta agent has told you about their experience in this, we'd love to talk to them and thank them.
We're going to get a hold of this doctor, and I'm going to get a hold of Blake Moore's office, and let's see if we can do quick interviews of both of them and see what's they're going on with those. I think that's going to be fascinating. Talking to the physician, and
I would love to know why none of the South Carolina leadership reached back out when I did congressional inquiries. I did have, I guess that's not fair. I had Tim Scott's office call me, but they called me and basically said like they were elevating it. It was kind of like outside of whatever, and they would be working with Blake Moore's office on it. And then I never heard from them again. So, and that was after me putting a lot of pressure because the soldier had died at Fort Jackson, and I had tagged all of the South Carolina leadership and said, where are you guys at? Like, why are we having...
Tim Scott's a great guy, so...
Yeah. So his office, like, I just want to be fair, his office did. But I was trying to be pretty aggressive with Mitch McConnell's office Lindsey Graham's office, because Lindsey Graham is like directly over this, right, too? Or it's his state, and nothing. They didn't even respond to me.
Yeah, because you're not...
They're from there.
You're not from South Carolina. Even when he oversees it, he'd have to go to Blake Moore's office too, because it's not in his purview. Yeah. I don't think legally they can do something for somebody out of state like that. I mean, he can harp down and get on top of the fort, stuff like that, because that's in his purview.
Which is kind of what we were asking for, yeah.
You'd have to work to Blake Moore's office to local.
Yeah, but you can respond and explain that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and when I wrote to all of them, I knew, like, we're not your constituent.
To him, it probably didn't make it past his staff members.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the staff. You can tell the differences in staff when you start working with some of these offices. Blake Moore's staff has been incredible, but it also makes a difference when you're dealing with someone in their staff that has military experience too.
So to kind of end here, kind of tell us what your son's thought process is right now. What's going through his mind? What's he saying?
Well, I think Saturday, being told he was going to be discharged with nothing. He's not like an angry kid, but that's probably the most upset I've heard him throughout this entire thing, because now it's like he's been in since he was 17. He just turned 20, and it's over. Like nothing.
Like he didn't do anything.
Yeah, like
that'd be very.
They really just wasted the last 3 years, and that part has been really hard for him, because he was being told, like, we're getting you back in. It'll be a few more weeks. It'll be a few more weeks for this whole year. So he's watched all of his friends. they're in college, they're getting another semester under their belt, they're getting another one under their belt, and he's had his world in limbo.
So he hasn't been able to go to school, hasn't been able to do anything because he's thinking he's going in all the time. That's so not right to have someone in limbo like that.
Yeah, he's been in limbo the whole time. So I think because they have said like, oh, we're fixing this, once something happens officially one way or the other, then I think it'll be time for him to start to like really move on and stuff and figure out what he wants to do next. But yeah, I mean, his whole life was wrapped up in that. Like he went into civil engineering, my husband's best friend, that's what he does. He was going to come straight back, have a job with my husband's best friend, finish school. And now, and my son's really tight with money. So he's like, I'm gonna have to pay for school like all by myself now. And like, yeah, like it's just trying to wrap his head around having his whole world change. Cause I think he was a junior in high school, when he took the ASVAB. He didn't go in right away because he would have had to go to boot camp the summer before senior year, and he played football. And so he couldn't do that. And so he got in during his senior year. So he's been in that whole time, and now he's like, what do I do next? But, you know, I told him he'll figure it out, and he needs to pull from this. Whether or not he goes back, he needs to pull from everything he's learned on how you treat people and how it comes back to haunt you or doesn't.
Assertive. Stand up for yourself.
Yeah. I really think he has learned that, because at one point there was like rumblings of me signing an NDA, and he was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, I was like, if it helps you. And he's like, my mom, absolutely not, Mom. Like, I literally forbid you to sign an NDA on this for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, okay. And so you can tell he's like learning stuff, because I think before he probably would have been more passive and like, okay, well, if that's what they need, kind of a thing. But he was no.
For sure, trials can make us stronger.
Yeah.
There's always good that can come from bad.
Yeah.
We're going to make some more good come from this.
Let's go viral.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this is God and Country. Again, help us get this going viral and get it into the right hands of people who can do something about it. And stay tuned for future podcasts.